Om Mahaganapataye Namaha. What Jesus meant by saying you have to be as wise as a snake, and the most important thing you can do to change all areas of your life, and a technique from Dr. Pillai. So, what did Jesus mean when he said be as wise as a snake? Well, you have to understand what the snake represents. There are a lot of esoteric meanings behind all animals, including the snake, and snake is a very, very important one. So to give you some understandings before I jump into some of the science of this, I also relate a teaching from Satguru, another an Indian mystic, who talks about the snake as a vehicle for enlightened beings who prefer to use the body of a snake when they interact with the earth plane. And there's a reason for that, and that's what we're going to get into. Also, you have a lot of the gods and goddesses depicted with snakes. If you notice this, between Vishnu, we have Shiva, you have Muruga. In South India, they say when you see a snake, it's Muruga. So the goddess as well, Isis, all the different goddesses all have snake forms, also dragon forms. And what does this mean? Well, to understand the snake as a representative of the Kundalini Shakti is one of the primary components that what our snakes are attributed with, or symbols, if you will. So the Kundalini Shakti is typically associated with a coiled up serpent. What is the Kundalini Shakti? The Kundalini Shakti is the support, or the lap, or the life force energy that comes through the center of your spine in a subtle nervous channel called your Shushumna. And so the snake represents that, and also interesting about the snake represents, it is a cortex-free setup where our human brain is, we have a midbrain complex, which they call as the reptilian brain, or the primitive brain, or the primordial brain. Then you have this big mushroom cortex that we've developed later on that also plays a role, and I'll explain that in a minute. Now the snake represents also an undiluted expression of this Kundalini. So they're just functioning out of what we're calling as the reptile brain, which is the midbrain complex, and the cerebellum. That whole complex, which is the seat of our subconscious, the seat of also, according to the yogis, our soul. It's also the housing of what they call as the third eye. Now, modern research about the third eye, and it's interesting they called it the third eye thousands of years ago before they didn't dissect it. They just came up with this name, and what modern research is actually finding is the pineal gland. The pineal gland, what the yogis would call as the third eye, actually has rods, cones, retina. It has a lot of characteristics inside the pineal gland that a normal eye has. Very interesting. So the midbrain complex is associated with intuition and wisdom. So we have to also define what wisdom means. Wisdom, in it, I'm going to be very, very generic with this. Wisdom, in essence, is an intelligence faculty that comes from within you that is beyond your mind or beyond your memory. Anything outside of your... So in general, we function on this, our identity, or what we know. Everything we know, our intelligence is all based off of the cumulative knowledge we've inherited from our genetics and from our external environment that we've learned and also been subconsciously conditioned with. Now, beyond that, beyond the mind, you have what is called as wisdom. Wisdom comes from the soul, or you can also say as the unconscious. It pierces through into the mind, and it is beyond the mind. And this is where the midbrain plays a very important role, because this wisdom, according to the yogis, comes from the midbrain. And this is what snakes represent, is this whole entire complex of a perfect setup where they don't have the cortex, which pulls the energy into these different areas of the brain. Where we have emotional brain, we have this frontal lobe, which we are actualizing our identity. We have this limited identity coming from the frontal lobe, which is sort of like where our prison guards are primarily at. Prison guards being the limiting thoughts that we have that says we can do this, we can't do this, we're not good enough, we don't have the money for this, we don't look good enough, we don't have the right skills. This is all coming from the frontal lobe, which limits us. And if you look at the past videos that I've done about the observer theory, or quantum physics string theory, or particle physics, you can understand that reality itself at its core level or its fundamental level is nothing but potential. That it is potential to create whatever we want to create, and that we are only limited in that ability to create or wield that power from our unconscious by our mind. Our mind puts filters and modifications on it. And so this cortex is like, if you can imagine, is like a big filter. What it's doing is the energy comes up the spine, it comes up through the brainstem, which is the prana life force energy, into the midbrain or third eye. That's why it's called as the primitive brain or the reptile brain. It's the first brain. It goes to the cerebellum, midbrain complex, and then from there it goes out into the cortex. So being wise as a snake means keeping your attention and identifying yourself, letting your attentional energy rest in your midbrain, where most people, most of us, have this condition where if you close your eyes right now, the number one thing you're going to feel if you put your attention on your head is your forehead. It's the most easiest to put your attention on your forehead, and that's because our attentional energy has naturally been conditioned to rest into our frontal lobe region. If you don't understand about neuroscience, it is the science, part of the science of the future, and you should go and look up some of these things. Now, I also want to bring in a quote here from Albert Einstein that is a scientific understanding of what he meant when he said that the mind is supposed to be the servant and that our intuitive mind is the gift. But unfortunately, we've created a society where we honor the servant and not the gift. Now, what he meant, a scientific or neurological understanding of this, is we are giving prominence to our frontal lobe and our cortex, our mushroom-shaped part of the brain. Primarily of that are frontal lobes. What he means by the gift is the midbrain. This is the seat of intuition, the seat of the unconscious and subconscious. And so you look at acupuncture or reflexology, where they're doing these studies with people where they have this reflexology points, or a study was conducted in Japan by some prominent, some researchers at some university, where they were trying to figure out reflexology, which is the concept of you can push or stimulate a point on your body and stimulate a seemingly disconnected point. So what they did research on is your foot. They were analyzing if you could push your foot in a certain reflexology point, and what they found was it's true that by doing this using fMRI, or functional magnetic resonance imaging of your brain, they could see the brain lighting up by pushing certain parts of the foot. Now there's a reflexology point here called the yin tang in acupuncture reflexology, which is connected to the midbrain. Now this particular part of the area is connected to a technique that I'm going to share from you from Dr. Ply, which she calls as midbrain tapping. Now when people using the yin tang, acupuncturists, I was doing some research about this for a side project, or a project that I'm working on aside from this video, and people were reporting all kinds of things, like all of a sudden they were having clarity of thought, they felt calmer, they felt like they were able to make better decisions that changed their life. All these things were happening to them, and because this comes down to what I was saying in the beginning of the video. The number one core thing that if you want to focus on to use your time better, to make better decisions, to feel better, all these things, because after all, decisions are what create our life. It's our choices that give us disease or make us money. It's that what makes you different, or us, or anybody different from somebody who's extraordinary. So it makes the only thing different from you, from like someone like Bill Gates, is how their brain is functioning. Albert Einstein as well, how their brain is functioning. When Albert Einstein passed away, they dissected his brain. They found out a part of his brain called the parietal lobe was abnormally larger in his brain than most other people. So it's the brain that we have to focus on to change everything. And what I'm suggesting to you, what I'm offering to you, is it's the midbrain area, particularly the midbrain and cerebellum area, where you want to pull your attention into. The great yogi Swami Ramalingam, the great Siddha Swami Ramalingam of the South Indian Tamil Siddhas, very famous saint. He was documented by the British in 1874 for transmutating his body into light, which is the manifestation of Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, which says energy and matter are the same thing, which we have also looked at in string theory as sound is a form of energy. Sound or energy or light, sound becomes light and light becomes matter. So mc equals square, when matter reaches the speed of light, I believe it's speed of light squared, if I'm not mistaken, it becomes energy. And he was able to do this. And this one of the Siddha's great teachings was he would keep his attention, he advised keeping a visualization of a pillar of light in his midbrain area, from the top of his brain to the brainstem area, the midbrain, a solid pillar of light. Why would he do this? Well, we're finding out with modern neuroscience and fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, brain studies, that by putting your focus on wherever you put your focus, you're going to increase blood flow to that area, and thereby you're going to activate that area. What we call as activation means bringing blood flow, bringing a life force energy. This is a manifestation of this. So by putting your attention inside your midbrain, you're going to give it, you're going to activate that area, and it's going to become more prominent. But right now, we're so used to using our frontal lobe. As you can see, our attention naturally rests here, and as a result, what we've ended up with is a very limited identity, where we have a very limited ego and a very limited way of understanding things, and we're filtering all of our information and decision making through our frontal lobe, when the idea is we want to be doing that through the midbrain. The midbrain is an unlimited area of the brain. So the yogis talk about, well, we talked about this as the seat of the subconscious, and if you watch the past video, you know that the subconscious and the unconscious are responsible for the quantum physics or particle physics observer theory effect, where the conscious observer is collapsing the wave potential of reality into particles that become molecules and matter that we experience. In other words, the observed is the observer, and that manifestation is being done through your subconscious mind. Is it a mistake or a coincidence that the yogis happen to also say that in order to manifest a thought, you have to put that thought into your midbrain area and your pineal gland particularly? Is that a coincidence? It's very interesting. So what I'm suggesting to you is learn a technique called midbrain tapping. I will put a link in the description below this video. The beautiful thing about this technique is it is scientific. It is non-spiritual. It is not requiring a belief system. All you have to do, and it's very, very short. You can do it in seconds. Within a few seconds, you can put yourself in a different brain state. You can put your intentional energy and activate a different area of your brain. So I encourage you to watch the videos. I will quickly demonstrate how to do it, the gist of it, but it would be better for you to watch Dr. Platt and receive initiation from him. So in general, you can use your pinky or you can use your ring finger. And what you do is first, you can close your eyes or you can leave your eyes open. And you pull your attentional energy in between your two eyebrows in what they call as the yin tang, which is corresponding to your pituitary gland and part of your midbrain complex. You pull your attention into that area. You visualize, you can add a visualization of a red light. And once your energy rests there, you begin to tap gently, and then you work yourself up in a line, and you feel, and you work this line all the way to the crown of your head, at the very top center of your head. You stop, you feel the line, and if you want to go one step further, you feel the line as a red light, an infrared light, and there's science behind that. I'm not going to get into this video. A red light, an orangey red light as a line, and then you feel your midbrain open. Now, some people have been sharing incredible feedback from doing this technique. So some people are going to feel this right away. Some people are not going to feel this right away. Whether you do or not, the science of this is there are sensitive nerve endings here, subtle nervous points or reflexology points along this area of the forehead that correspond to parts of your midbrain. So what you're doing here is you are activating your midbrain, and you are allowing yourself to pull your attentional energy there. And the idea is you want to try to hold your attention there, or hold your attention in this. So when you're going about your day, instead of letting yourself dump all of your energy into your frontal lobe, allow your energy to either rest here, or let it rest as that pillar of light we discussed about from Swami Ramalingam. So I would really love to hear your feedback after this video. If you have a chance to do the technique, please leave some comments below. Even if you don't feel anything, you do feel something, I would love to hear back from you. So please share in the comments below if you feel called to do so. And as always, if you'd like to be notified for future videos, make sure to click subscribe and the bell notification. God bless.